Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today's journey brings us face to face with one of those captivating pieces of American pocket history, the 1973 D Mint Mark Kennedy half-dollar. It may appear like an ordinary coin to anyone glancing at it for just a moment, but its past, its production, and certain rare qualities have drawn collectors into a hunt that is more thrilling than most people realize. That is exactly why this video exists, to open a window into a chapter of U.S. numismatic history you may never have heard before. Imagine, for a moment, the early 1970s. The United States was shifting, reshaping, rethinking its direction. The Vietnam conflict was winding down, the Watergate scandal was unraveling the trust of a nation, and across the country, economic uncertainty loomed. But even within moments of turbulence, the minting of coins continued steadily, quietly documenting the times in metal form. In Denver, where the D Mint mark originates, machines clanked day and night, transforming vast sheets of copper-nickel alloy into something more symbolic than functional, the half-dollar bearing the image of John F. Kennedy. Though Kennedy had been gone for a decade by 1973, his presence on U.S. currency remained a tribute to his legacy, optimism, and the nation's desire to remember him in ways that would circulate from hand to hand for generations. But here is where the story gets fascinating. By the early 1970s, half-dollars had already begun slipping out of everyday use. Most Americans rarely received them in change anymore. People simply didn't carry them, and banks didn't order them as often. Because of this, several years of half-dollar production became more interesting to collectors. When a coin doesn't circulate widely, certain varieties remain preserved, tucked away in rolls, collections, or forgotten drawers. Some survive in mint condition far better than typical circulating coins. Others contain subtle minting quirks, small imperfections or variances, that can elevate their worth dramatically. The 1973 D Kennedy half-dollar falls right into this category of intrigue. Even though millions were made, many stayed uncirculated, and fewer still appeared with exceptional strike quality or rare die characteristics that specialists look for today. The Denver Mint was known for strong, sharp strikes during this period, and that fact alone makes top-grade examples of this coin especially desirable. Think for a moment about all the hands this coin could have passed through if it had circulated: shopkeepers, students, bus drivers, veterans, factory workers. But unlike coins clanking around in pockets, a pristine piece from 1973 survives almost as a time capsule. The portrait of Kennedy appears crisp, the lettering clear, the details on the eagle's feathers bold, and the edges still reveal the fine reading that wears down so easily. The more untouched a coin, the more it intrigues collectors who want to preserve numismatic history as perfectly as possible. But the big question many viewers ask, especially those stumbling onto a half-dollar in a jar of old change, is simple: how much is it worth? Well, the answer is layered. Most 1973 D half-dollars in used condition don't carry significant value. They're appreciated for history, but not typically for rarity. However, the real thrill comes from the extraordinary survivors, the flawless, gem-quality pieces graded by professional services, the ones that still capture the original luster as if they were minted just seconds ago. These coins can reach values that surprise even seasoned collectors. So what makes certain examples dramatically more valuable? Condition. 4:1. The grading scale in numismatics measures quality from well-worn to immaculate perfection. Coins graded in the highest tiers, especially those reaching the top of the mint state scale, are exceptionally scarce. A slight scratch, a tiny nick, a faint streak of dullness on the surface could drop a grade significantly. But a perfect or near-perfect coin? Those turn heads. Then, there are varieties and striking anomalies. Every coin is made from a die, and dies wear down over time. When they degrade or crack, unusual patterns can appear on the coins they produce. These may include doubled lettering, extra lines, slightly misplaced design elements, or minute distortions that specialists spend their lives studying. A unique die variety can elevate a coin's importance far beyond its standard value. For the 1973 D half-dollar, these perfect conditions and rare features combine to produce an unexpected phenomenon. Certain individuals are willing to pay staggering amounts for the right example. And that is exactly why the 1973 D has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. Whenever a truly exceptional specimen finds its way to auction, now imagine the excitement in a room when a nearly flawless example appears on the block. Bidders lean forward, appraisers study the crisp details through magnified screens, and auctioneers start the rhythmic chant that numismatists dream about hearing attached to one of their own coins. The anticipation is electric. A piece that spent decades surviving untouched suddenly becomes the centerpiece of a bidding war, proof that value is not only about age or rarity but the perfect combination of history, nostalgia, condition, and demand. This transforms what many might think of as just a coin into something far more. It becomes a treasure, a symbol of preservation, and a reminder that even modern-era coins can hold extraordinary worth when circumstances align. Collectors cherish these discoveries because they highlight why the hobby remains thrilling after centuries, the possibility that something extraordinary might be hiding in plain sight. Somewhere in an attic box, a forgotten envelope, or an inherited stash of coins, a tiny piece of American history waits for someone to appreciate it. Not because it's old, but because its story has survived intact. And this brings us to the heart of today's script, the moment everyone has been waiting for. Among the highest recorded prices paid for a 1973 D Kennedy half-dollar lies one particularly astonishing figure. A coin in jaw-dropping condition, preserved with such remarkable perfection that collectors recognized it immediately as a standout example of the Denver Mint's production capabilities, soared to a price that most people would never expect for a half-dollar minted during the 1970s. It serves as a reminder that value is not always about the year stamped on the metal, it's about the journey that coin took, or in this case, the journey it didn't take. It never jingled in pockets, never slipped between couch cushions, never scratched against keys or loose change. Instead, it survived almost untouched, waiting for someone with the right eye to notice. The admiration for such a coin is part logic, part nostalgia, and part art appreciation. The gleam of a perfectly preserved Kennedy half-dollar is enough to make collectors feel as though they've stepped back in time, even if only for a moment. And that emotional spark often translates into impressive auction results, catching headlines in the numismatic community and inspiring treasure hunters to check their own collections more closely. So as today's video draws near its closing moments, think about your own coins, the ones you've never examined under good lighting or gently tilted to admire the luster. You might not possess one of the rarest 1973 D half-dollars, but the beauty of numismatics is that every coin has a story. Every worn scratch, every gleaming surface, every preserved ridge carries a whisper from the past. We're stepping straight into that world as we explore one of the most iconic and widely recognized commemorative coins ever released by the United States Mint, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial half-dollar. Now, imagine a coin that isn't just a piece of metal, but a celebration. A national birthday party recorded in copper and clad, an object that millions of Americans held in their hands during a moment when patriotism filled the air like fireworks. That is the bicentennial half-dollar. While you may have seen one lying forgotten at the bottom of a drawer, sitting inside a jar of spare change, or handed over at a garage sale, not all bicentennial half-dollars are created equal. Some are common, some are scarce, and a select few are hiding jaw-dropping value, but how do you tell the difference? What separates a perfectly ordinary bicentennial half-dollar from the kind collectors dream about? And why do certain mint marks, metal compositions, and tiny details make such a massive difference in price? That's exactly what we're exploring today. So sit back, relax, and join me as we uncover the story, the secrets, and the hidden worth of the United States of America's 1776 to 1976 half-dollar. Let's start with the purpose behind the coin. In 1976, America celebrated its 200th anniversary, the bicentennial of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. To mark the occasion, the U.S. Mint created special commemorative designs for three circulating coins, the quarter, the half-dollar, and the dollar. And each one carried the dual date, 1776 to 1976, reminding everyone who spent them that this was no ordinary year. For the half-dollar, the Mint chose a reverse design showing Independence Hall, one of the most monumental locations in American history. This was where the Declaration was debated, refined, and ultimately signed. The front remained the familiar profile of President John F. Kennedy, but with a special twist. For the first time since the coin's introduction in 1964, the date was replaced by the two-century span of the American story. Like other U.S. coins, the bicentennial half-dollar was minted in several locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And depending on where your coin came from, what it was made of, and how it has survived over time, that little half-dollar in your hand could be worth a lot more than 50 cents. Let's begin with the most common version, the Philadelphia issue. Philadelphia struck an enormous number of bicentennial halves, and these have no mint mark. In circulated condition, they're usually worth face value or a tiny premium, even today. But condition changes everything. A Philadelphia bicentennial half-dollar found in exceptional mint state, with crisp details, strong luster, and untouched surfaces, can shift from ordinary pocket change to a desirable collector piece. The challenge is that so many were made, and so many entered circulation, that truly pristine examples are extremely hard to find. The tiniest scratch, the slightest loss of shine, and the value drops dramatically. That's why collectors seek those rare high-grade survivors. Next, we have the Denver minted bicentennial half-dollar, marked with a small d. Denver's coins tend to have strong, bold strikes, but, like Philadelphia, it produced an enormous quantity of bicentennial halves, hundreds of millions. So again, the average circulated Denver half-dollar is quite common. But once you enter the world of high-grade, top-scoring specimens, the picture changes. A Denver bicentennial half-dollar that was carefully preserved from the moment it left the mint, or one discovered untouched inside a mint-sealed set, can achieve collector-level premiums. Perfection is rare, and rarity brings value. Now, let's talk about the San Francisco Mint, home to something truly special. You may have seen some of these coins with a bright, mirror-like finish, almost glowing under the light. Those are proof coins. The San Francisco Mint struck both regular clad proofs and silver proofs for the bicentennial series. And yes, silver makes a big difference. The 40% silver bicentennial half-dollars issued by San Francisco were never meant for general circulation. They were sold to collectors as part of special 3-coin sets, alongside the bicentennial quarter and dollar. Today, these silver bicentennial halves are immediately distinguishable by weight, appearance, and, of course, the S mint mark. Silver coins have a pleasing, almost ringing tone when gently tapped and a different shine that seasoned collectors can identify instantly. Although millions of these silver pieces were produced, the majority live inside collector sets, never touched, never spent, and never exposed to the harsh environment of circulation. But even within these sets, not all coins are equal. Some develop haze or spotting over time. Others show small imperfections from the minting process itself. And still others are so perfectly preserved that they stand out in the world of grading and collections. Those top-grade examples can become remarkably valuable, but mint marks aren't the only key to understanding value. Strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and even subtle errors can turn these coins into prize pieces. For example, bicentennial halves with off-center strikes, double dies, or unusual planchet flaws can attract intense collector interest. These mint errors are sought because they are accidental, rare, and unrepeatable, like a fingerprint of history. Even a minor but noticeable error can mean the difference between pocket change and a coin worth several times more. And then there are the highest-grade certified examples, coins that professional grading services have examined under magnification, measured for perfection, and sealed inside protective holders. For common coins like the bicentennial half-dollar, it's the finest surviving specimens that bring the highest prices. A top-graded bicentennial half-dollar with immaculate surfaces, razor-sharp details, and glowing luster can surge in value because collectors love competition. Everyone wants the best, but value is not only about rarity. It's also about story. The bicentennial coins embody a national milestone. People who lived through 1976 remember parades, fireworks, flags, an entire country celebrating its past, present, and future. That emotional connection plays a role in demand. Even today, Younger collectors enjoy these pieces because they feel rooted in American history while still widely accessible, but amid all of this, common coins, high-grade examples, proof issues, silver strikes, mint errors, there is another tier entirely. A level reserved for the most extraordinary specimens, the coins that combine condition, rarity, desirability, and sometimes a touch of luck. These pieces are the ones that turn heads in auctions, surprise sellers, and excite collectors. Some bicentennial half-dollars, especially those from San Francisco in high-grade silver proof, have reached unexpectedly high winning bids in competitive numismatic events. These auctions bring out buyers who want the best and are willing to spend big to get it. And those record-setting pieces prove that even a coin millions of people once casually spent on candy, gasoline, or a movie ticket can transform into a treasure. So before you toss that 1776 to 1976 half-dollar aside, take another look. Check the mint mark. Observe the shine. Look for scratches, contact marks, and oddities. Feel the weight if you suspect it might be silver. You might just be holding something special, something more valuable than you imagined. And even if it isn't one of the exceptionally rare varieties, it's still a piece of history, one that tells a story of celebration, unity, and the journey of a nation. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating, often misunderstood coins in modern U.S. numismatics, the 1977 D. Kennedy half-dollar. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a journey into how an ordinary-looking coin minted for everyday use can become a treasure, how collectors hunt for subtle details that transform pocket change into profit, and how one rare example shocked the hobby world with an incredible sale price. But this video isn't just about numbers, it's about the story. The year, the minting conditions, the demand, the mistakes, the myths, and the market. So buckle up, because we're about to uncover everything you've ever wanted to know about the 1977 D half-dollar and why, in a handful of extraordinary cases, this simple piece of American currency became something truly remarkable. Picture the United States in 1977. The country was emerging from the turmoil of the previous decade, celebrating cultural milestones, and settling into a new era of technology and economic shifts. Coin collecting was already a beloved American hobby, but minting practices were changing. Silver had long disappeared from circulating half-dollars. Copper-nickel-clad coins had become the new standard. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins a year. Among them was the 1977 D. Kennedy half-dollar, struck by the millions, intended to pass from hand to hand without a second thought. Most did just that. They wore out in circulation, saw daily consumer use, and eventually disappeared into cash drawers, tip jars, and bank bags. But somewhere in that enormous sea of mass-produced coins, a few stood out, either because they were preserved in extraordinary condition or because they contained tiny minting anomalies that turned them into collector marvels. Let's break down the basics first. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 to honor the legacy of President John F. Kennedy, a national symbol of hope, tragedy, and unity. By 1977, the design had already become iconic. The Denver Mint struck more than 31 million half-dollars that year, all copper-nickel clad. That means, for most collectors, a 1977 D half-dollar is common. It's everywhere. It's worth face value in circulated condition. And because the metal composition contains no silver, people often assume these coins can't be valuable. But here's where the story gets interesting: value doesn't come only from rarity. It comes from condition, demand, errors, and most importantly, exceptional examples that defy the norm. One of the biggest factors in determining a coin's worth is condition, and the scale used to measure this is the Sheldon grading scale, ranging from 1 to a perfect 70. Most 1977 D half-dollars grade somewhere between 20 and 60 if found in circulation. They show scratches, dull luster, rim nicks, and general wear. These are not the coins collectors fight over, but every now and then, one escapes the usual fate. Maybe it was tucked away in a bank roll. Maybe it was saved as a souvenir. Maybe someone simply liked the look of the coin and placed it aside for decades. Such coins may survive in MS-66, MS-67, or even MS-68, and that's where the magic begins. At MS-67, the coin becomes scarce. At MS-68, it becomes elite. With millions minted, you might expect more high-grade survivors, but nearly all were handled, circulated, or poorly stored. True high-grade examples are extremely rare and incredibly desirable. Now let's talk errors, one of the most exciting parts of modern coin collecting. Errors happen when mistakes occur during the minting process. While many of these errors are minor, some are dramatic enough to attract serious collector attention. A bold double die with clear doubling on the date or lettering can multiply the value significantly. An off-center strike that leaves part of the design missing can be equally enticing, but even among error coins, the real standouts are those that combine rarity with immaculate condition. Coin collectors love the unexpected. And the 1977 D half dollar has become a quiet favorite among those who specialize in modern coins. Why? Because it represents the thrill of the hunt. Looking for an everyday coin with the possibility of extraordinary value, the Kennedy series has a strong collector base. People who collect by year, by mint mark, by condition, by variety, and by special designation all help fuel demand. And just like other modern coins that suddenly skyrocketed because of a single spectacular auction result, the 1977 D has become a coin everyone checks, just in case. Although most 1977 D half dollars will never be worth more than a few dollars, there is one example, an absolute standout, that made headlines by selling for an astonishing amount. This coin wasn't just clean. It wasn't just shiny. It wasn't just lucky. It was graded at an almost impossible level, combining near-flawless surfaces, crisp details, and breathtaking luster. It became the highest-graded example known, a true population rarity, meaning no other coin matched it in that grade. Collectors crave population topper coins. They represent the pinnacle of what the mint produced in any given year. Even if millions were minted, only one can be the best. And that is what drives extraordinary value. When this ultra-grade example went to auction, bidders did not hold back. They recognized the significance. They knew they were competing for the finest known 1977 D half dollar in existence. And when the gavel fell, it set a record that stunned even seasoned numismatists. Moments like these remind us why coin collecting is so compelling. It's not always about the age of a coin. It's not always about how many were minted. It's sometimes about being the best of the best. Investors love elite, population one coins because they represent a unique asset, irreplaceable, incomparable, and historically significant. Hobbyists, on the other hand, love the idea that a coin sitting unnoticed in a collection, a drawer, or even a family box could turn out to be a hidden treasure, and that's what makes the 1977 D half dollar so much fun. It is a coin you can actually look for. One you might already own. One that could be hiding in a roll or collection with potential beyond all expectations. It means that any 1977 D half dollar you come across deserves a look. Check the surfaces. Check the luster. Check for errors. Even if the odds are slim, the possibility alone is part of the adventure of collecting. We are diving deep into one of those surprising treasures, the 1978 mint mark half-dollar coin. What seems like a typical piece of pocket change has, in certain conditions, climbed into a price range that turns collectors into hunters and ordinary people into lucky finders. Let's step into the history, rarity, details, and values that make the 1978 half dollar one of the most fascinating modern-era coins to watch out for. A step back in time. What was America like in 1978? Before we talk about the coin itself, picture the United States in 1978. Disco was still echoing through the speakers of every roller rink. The first Garfield comic strip was freshly printed. NASA was testing spacecraft, and the country was adjusting to the post-Vietnam era. Inflation, shifting politics, and a renewed fascination with American symbols created a cultural backdrop that made certain everyday items, like coins, more meaningful than they seemed. The U.S. Mint was already well into producing the Kennedy half dollar, a coin introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination. By 1978, the Kennedy design was familiar, almost routine. But familiarity doesn't mean dismissible, because this year produced some unexpected gems. The Kennedy half-dollar continues its legacy. The 1978 half-dollar continued with the now iconic profile of John F. Kennedy on the obverse. Sculpted by Gilroy Roberts, Kennedy's portrait remains one of the most recognizable images in American numismatic history. Flip it over, and you see Frank Gasparo's powerful heraldic eagle on the reverse, a design inspired by the presidential seal. While most people in 1978 used quarter coins for daily transactions, the half-dollar had already begun fading from daily use. Many banks ordered fewer. Circulation declined. As a result, the number of high-grade half-dollars preserved from the late 1970s is surprisingly small. That scarcity in high condition is exactly what drives their value today. Mint marks matter. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The 1978 half-dollar came from 3 locations: Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; Denver Mint, marked with a D; San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. For proof coins, the Philadelphia and Denver versions were business strike coins. Millions were made, yes, but very, very few survived in exceptional condition because they were meant for circulation. The real hidden gems are those that somehow escaped scratches, bag marks, and wear. Those are the coins collectors dream of. Why the 1978 half-dollar isn't just a common coin at first glance. The mintage numbers appear high. Over 50 million business strike coins rolled off the presses. But quantity doesn't equal value. Condition does. Hundreds of millions of 1990s baseball cards exist, but only a handful in flawless condition are valuable. The same is true for the 1978 half-dollar. Coins from the late 1970s were often tossed in change jars, used in casinos, slid across counters, or dropped in vending machines. All these activities leave marks. Over time, even a single fingerprint can diminish the value of a coin meant to be pristine. That's why the few surviving flawless pieces, coins graded at ultra-high levels, stun collectors when they surface. The grading factor, the true secret behind massive value. Every coin collector knows that value revolves around grading. A 1978 half-dollar pulled from everyday change might be worth only face value. But find one with sharp details, booming luster, and nearly no imperfections, and the grading services take notice. Use a meticulous 70-point scale known as the Sheldon scale. The highest grade, MS 70, represents a perfect coin with no visible flaws under magnification. Most 1978 half-dollars fall into the MS 60 to MS 64 range, but a rare few, those that slipped out of the mint with extraordinary strikes, untouched surfaces, and superior preservation, reach the elite grades of MS 66, MS 67, and, even more rarely, MS 68. These higher grades can completely transform the coin's value, turning a 50-cent piece into a career-defining find. And the 1978 half-dollar, especially from certain mint batches, can display particularly sharp strikes that make them grading goldmines. Why these coins can command major money? You may wonder, how does a modern-era coin with millions minted become worth so much? The answer lies in a combination of historical relevance, low survival rate, and high-grade collector demand for flawless examples. Registry competition. Registry sets allow collectors to compete by assembling the highest-graded collection of a certain series. When a collector finds a rare top-graded coin, it can complete, or improve, their registry ranking. This competition leads to very high auction prices for coins that may seem ordinary to the untrained eye, and that's exactly what happened with the 1978 half-dollar. The moment everything changed. Auction shockwaves. In recent years, one particular 1978 half-dollar shocked collectors everywhere. Its immaculate condition, near-perfect strike, and dazzling luster pushed it far higher than anyone expected. This wasn't just a mildly valuable coin, it became a record breaker. Auction houses saw fierce bidding. Collectors recognized its rarity. Experts confirmed its exceptional grade. And when the final hammer fell, the numismatic world took notice that it was no longer just about a 1978 half-dollar. It was a statement about how even modern coins can hold incredible value when preserved with absolute perfection. Details collectors look for today. If you're wondering whether your 1978 half-dollar might be valuable, here's what experts check first. Mint mark and origin. D from Denver often grades better due to stronger strikes. Philadelphia coins can surprise collectors with fewer Mark San Francisco proofs carry brilliant finishes, surface and luster, clean fields free of scratches, bright, unbroken shine, strike depth. Kennedy's hair strands must appear sharply defined. The eagle's wings and shield should look crisp, edges and rims no dents or flattening. Full reading fully intact. Even small imperfections can drop the coin's value significantly. That's why the highest graded pieces are so incredibly rare, why you should check your old change jars. Most people still overlook 1978 half dollars. They sit in old boxes, in inherited coin rolls, or inside dusty drawers. Many people never think twice about them, but imagine pulling out a coin you've ignored for decades, and it turns out to be one of the rare ultra-high-grade examples. At that moment, a small piece of history could change your life. This is what keeps collectors searching. Every roll, every jar, every estate sale, the modern collector's obsession with high-grade coins. Today's collectors are more precise, more competitive, and more passionate than ever before. With advanced lighting, magnification, and certification services, the search for perfection has turned into a modern-day treasure hunt. The 1978 half dollar sits right in the center of this movement. It represents the thrilling possibility that an ordinary coin, one minted during a time of disco, Star Wars, and new American culture, can emerge decades later as a crown jewel in a collector's vault. Final thoughts. Why the 1978 half dollar still matters. This coin is more than 50 cents. It's more than metal. It's a reminder that history hides in plain sight. Journey takes us deep into the history, characteristics, errors, mint marks, and the surprising market value of these coins that many people once dismissed as pocket change. If you enjoy stories of overlooked treasures, numismatic mysteries, and money that hides in plain sight, settle in, because this is a fascinating one. To begin, let's set the stage of America during the late 1970s. The year 1979 was a time of cultural shifts, economic tension, and new directions in coin production. The United States Mint had been dealing with rising manufacturing costs due to increased metal prices, so by this time half dollars no longer contained any silver for circulation coins. Instead, they were composed of a copper-nickel clad mixture. These coins were made not to be stacked in vaults or admired as works of art but to survive the wear and tear of daily commerce. Ironically, this very ordinariness is part of what makes the rare pieces from 1979 so intriguing. They weren't minted to be special, yet some examples from that year have turned out to be extremely valuable. The half-dollar coin of 1979 continued the design known as the Kennedy half-dollar, created in the wake of President John F. Kennedy's assassination. The obverse displays Kennedy's profile, sharply engraved with flowing hair and a calm demeanor. The reverse depicts the presidential seal, an eagle clutching arrows and olive branches. This design is iconic in American coinage and contributes to the coin's appeal among collectors. However, beauty alone doesn't determine value. Rarity, condition, and quirky minting missteps often play a far bigger role. So, how many half dollars were actually made in 1979? Quite a lot. The Philadelphia Mint produced tens of millions, marked with no mint letter at all. The Denver Mint, designated with a D, also contributed a large quantity. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint created special proof coins for collectors, marked with an S. These proof coins had a mirror-like shine, much sharper details, and were struck multiple times to achieve their beautifully crisp appearance. Proofs were not meant for circulation, but for collectors who purchased them directly from the mint. Now, with mint marks spelled out, Philadelphia with none, Denver with D, and San Francisco with S, it seems straightforward. But coin collecting is rarely straightforward. Over the years, these coins evolved from everyday currency to collectible discussion pieces thanks to misprints, variations in the mint marks, and rare error coins that slipped out unnoticed. It is these anomalies that transform a 50-cent piece from loose change into something worth hundreds, thousands, or even far more. One of the most important aspects that affects the value of a 1979 half dollar is the presence of certain mint mark variations, especially on the San Francisco proof coins. Collectors sometimes encounter what is known as a clear S and a filled S mint mark. These variations occur because the original minting dies used to stamp the coins experienced wear or slight clogging during the manufacturing process. When the die was filled with debris, the S on the coin appears cloudy or partially blocked. When the die was fresh and clean, the S appears crisp and perfectly defined. To casual collectors, this difference might seem minor. To enthusiasts and professional numismatists, it can mean the world. A clear, sharply stamped S generally fetches more interest and value than a filled version, since clarity implies a better quality strike. And proof coins are, after all, meant to be premium examples of minting craftsmanship. Now, let's talk about error coins, one of the most exciting parts of coin collecting. Error coins result from mistakes during production, and because they are unintentional, they are naturally scarce. A 1979 half-dollar might display off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or misaligned mint marks. For example, a double die error could cause a slight doubling of letters or numbers, creating a shadow-like effect. These striking mistakes are not found in every handful of coins. In fact, many people go their entire lives without encountering one in circulation. Collectors hunt for these rare pieces with a mix of determination and hope. Discovering an error coin can feel like finding a hidden gem in your attic or stumbling upon a rare stamp in your grandfather's collection. Some errors only add modest value, while others bring astronomical sums when auctioned. SOY are 1979 half-dollars gaining renewed interest. Because the global coin collecting community has grown significantly in recent years. Social media, online auctions, and digital marketplaces have created an unprecedented space for collectors to share discoveries, discuss values, and inspire newcomers. Coins once dismissed as too modern to be valuable are being re-evaluated. And when demand rises, so does price. Another factor contributing to this renewed curiosity is the sentimental attachment Americans still feel toward the Kennedy half-dollar. Even people who don't collect coins often recognize the design instantly. Many remember receiving them as gifts, finding them in rolls of change at the bank, or saving them for decades in drawers. The design carries a sense of national pride and emotional history, which elevates its collectability. But let's focus specifically on the coins that command the highest prices, those that combine rarity, minting errors, and exquisite condition. In numismatics, condition is measured by a grading scale known as the Sheldon scale, which ranks coins from poor, graded as 1, all the way up to perfect condition, graded as 70. A high-grade 1979 half-dollar, especially one with a flawless strike or a rare minting variety, can attract tremendous interest at auctions. San Francisco proof coins, in particular, are often graded very highly because collectors who originally bought them tended to store them carefully. This means many proof coins survive in outstanding condition, but the rarest variations, such as those with exceptionally crisp mint marks or unusual die characteristics, still achieve impressive market values. Even non-proof 1979 half-dollars from Philadelphia or Denver can be worth more than face value if they feature rare errors or manage to survive in near-perfect states despite being minted for circulation. The combination of rarity and survival is often what separates an ordinary coin from a prized collectible. Now imagine attending a live coin auction or scrolling through a high-stakes online sale. Bidders compete fiercely for the chance to own rare 1979 half-dollars with mint mark anomalies or spectacular errors. Prices climb rapidly as collectors recognize that such pieces may not appear on the market again for years. Some coins, once purchased for less than $1, end up selling for thousands of times their original value, and this brings us to one of the most remarkable outcomes in the story of the 1979 half-dollar market. A particular example, featuring extraordinary preservation, a rare desirable variety, and flawless visual appeal, reached a stunning sales figure when it crossed the auction block. The buzz among collectors was undeniable. The sale captured attention across coin forums, valuation guides, and hobbyist communities. And it stands today as one of the most impressive prices ever. We're taking a deep dive into the history, features, and surprising value of this special half-dollar. If you've ever wondered how a coin you could once find in your pocket change could end up being worth more than many people's cars, homes, or even annual salaries, this is a video you're going to want to watch until the very end. To understand the 1997 D. Kennedy half-dollar, we need to start by zooming out and exploring the coin series it belongs to. The Kennedy half-dollar has been an iconic part of American coinage since 1964. It was originally minted to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination, and it quickly became one of the most beloved coins in circulation. Over the decades, these half-dollars continued to be produced, but by the late 20th century, they were no longer heavily used in everyday commerce. By the time we reached the 1990s, Kennedy half-dollars were mostly minted for collectors rather than widespread circulation. That's what makes the 1997 D version particularly interesting. It came out during a period when the mint was still producing them for commerce, but far fewer of these coins were actually being used by the public. This combination, general production but low real-world circulation, creates an unusual environment where a typical coin becomes oddly scarce in pristine condition. Now, let's jump into some of the key characteristics of the 1997 D Kennedy half-dollar. The D mint mark tells us the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. The coin is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, which means it isn't made of silver. That often surprises newer collectors who sometimes assume all half-dollars are silver, but that's not true for post-1970 business strike examples. The obverse displays the familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse showcases the heraldic presidential coat of arms created by Frank Gasparo. Both sides are iconic, but the value of this particular year and mint mark doesn't come from the design. It comes instead from condition, preservation, and rarity at the highest possible grade. You see, most 1997 D half-dollars entered circulation or were handled enough to acquire small marks, scratches, or wear. Even the slightest imperfection prevents a coin from achieving the top certification grades that collectors prize. When a coin is submitted to grading services like PCGS or NGC, it undergoes extremely strict evaluation. For modern coins like this one, only a fraction reach grades such as MS68 or MS69. And an MS70, a coin considered absolutely perfect, is almost unheard of. Because of that, the few examples from this year that do manage to reach the highest levels become extraordinarily valuable. That's where the real magic is, but before we get into the advanced values of these elite grades, it's important to understand what makes perfection so rare. Think about the life of a coin. From the moment it's struck in the minting chamber, it is ejected, stacked, counted, packaged, transported, and distributed. At every single one of those steps, there is potential for tiny nicks, faint rubs, or contact marks. These are natural parts of a coin's journey, and they accumulate quickly. Even small imperfections invisible to the naked eye can lower the grade significantly. When you consider the millions of coins minted, only a handful ever escape this process completely unmarred. Now enter the 1997 D Kennedy half-dollar. While the Denver Mint produced millions of them, very few survived in immaculate, pristine condition. Many were placed into rolls, bags, or circulation channels that introduced inevitable tiny flaws. Serious collectors, especially those who collect high-grade modern coins, hunt tirelessly for these rare specimens. The competition is fierce, and when an example surfaces in truly exceptional condition, it becomes a spotlight item at auctions. Before we reach the famous figure associated with this coin, let's explore how grading really works for it. Coins graded MS60 through MS63 are considered average uncirculated. They show mint luster but also obvious contact marks. These grades have modest collector interest and low market value. Once you reach MS64 and MS65, the coin becomes noticeably sharper and cleaner. However, only when you start approaching MS66 and MS67 does the value begin to rise meaningfully. These higher grades indicate a coin that has almost no imperfections, with excellent strike quality and strong overall eye appeal. At MS68, the coin becomes a rarity. At MS69, it is incredibly scarce, often one of only a few known examples. And then there is the level above that, a grade so rare it almost doesn't exist, MS70, the perfect specimen. For most modern clad half-dollars, an MS70 is something collectors dream about but hardly ever see. When a coin like that appears, its value can skyrocket beyond imagination, and this brings us to the heart of today's video, the extraordinary value achieved by one particular 1997 D. Kennedy half-dollar. This wasn't just any coin. It was a premier example with exceptional surfaces, superb luster, and absolute pristine condition. It was certified at the highest level and stood out among all known examples. Collectors immediately recognized it was something special. It wasn't just the best example anyone had seen, it was the kind of coin that might remain unmatched for decades. The combination of condition, demand, rarity, and grading set the stage for a remarkable outcome at auction, but value in coin collecting isn't just about rarity. It's also about passion. Collectors sometimes spend years chasing a single piece to fill a registry set. Registry competition, the process of assembling the best certified coin set in the world, plays a huge role in driving prices upward. When two or more high-level collectors are determined to secure the finest example of a coin for their personal or competitive set, prices can climb unbelievably fast. The 1997 D half-dollar in its exceptional grade became a target in exactly this kind of fierce competition. As the coin approached the auction block, anticipation built. Experts knew it had potential to command serious attention, but few predicted just how high the bidding would go. The auction began, bids climbed steadily, and soon the value surpassed typical expectations for modern half-dollars. Then something amazing happened, it kept rising. Two determined bidders battled intensely, each unwilling to back down. The price crossed milestone after milestone, drawing gasps and excitement from those watching. When the hammer finally fell, the result was astonishing. A 1997 D. Kennedy half-dollar, a coin most people might overlook in change, had just reached one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern-clad half-dollar. It became a famous sale, discussed among collectors, publications, and enthusiasts everywhere. The story continues to draw interest because it shows that even coins from the late 20th century, not ancient, not silver, not exotic, can become elite collectibles when preserved in once-in-a-lifetime condition. We're diving deep into one of the most intriguing, talked about, and surprisingly valuable modern coins from the United States Mint, the 1998 D. Kennedy half-dollar. If you're a coin collector, a treasure hunter, or simply someone fascinated by rare finds hiding in pocket change, this video is going to be a treat. We're going to explore the history, the minting details, the standout varieties, the grading secrets, and, of course, the remarkable value one of these coins once fetched at auction. So settle in, because this is going to be one of the most captivating journeys into modern American coinage you've ever heard. Background _of_the Kennedy half_dollar. Before we zoom in on the 1998 D issue, it's important to understand the iconic story behind the Kennedy half-dollar itself. Introduced in 1964, just months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, this coin was intended not only as a memorial but also as a unifying symbol at a time when the nation was grieving. The U.S. Mint moved at historic speed, releasing the design only 70 days after the tragic event. Over the decades, the Kennedy half-dollar became one of America's most recognizable circulating coins. But as the years passed, the usage of half-dollars in everyday commerce declined sharply. By the late 1990s, most Americans rarely saw half-dollars at all, and the coins were produced mainly for collectors rather than for general circulation. This made each year's mintage numbers more important, and sometimes the key to unexpected rarity, which brings us to the star of today's story, the 1998 D. What makes the 1998 D special? On the surface, the 1998 D. Kennedy half-dollar might seem like just another modern-clad coin. After all, millions were struck at the Denver Mint, and most of them entered the world without fanfare. But in the world of coin collecting, it's often not the mintage numbers that create value, it's the condition, the strike quality, the unexpected anomalies, and the grade populations. What truly sets the 1998 D apart is that while most examples are common, a very tiny number survive in exceptionally pristine condition. The type of flawless specimens that only a fraction of all coins ever achieve. And it's those elite coins, the ones graded at the absolute highest levels, that transform an ordinary $50 into a staggering collector's treasure. Understanding the Denver mint mark. The D Mint mark on the 1998 $50 tells us it was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the two major mints still striking coins for circulation today. Denver has a long history of producing sharp, clean strikes, but even so, perfection is incredibly rare. Every coin goes through machinery, pressure, handling, bagging, and transport, and every stage introduces the potential for scratches, scuffs, or small imperfections. That's why high-end examples of modern circulation strikes are so hard to come by. The slightest nick can knock a coin down an entire grade. Collectors who specialize in Kennedy halves know that Denver-struck halves often show small marks on the high points of Kennedy's cheekbone and jawline, common contact marks that instantly disqualify the coin from the highest grades. The roll grading. Now let's talk about grading, a topic crucial to understanding why a seemingly ordinary 1998 D $50 could command jaw-dropping prices. Coin grading is a highly precise and technical process, conducted by professional services like PCGS and NGC. Grades range from circulated conditions all the way up to mint state, and within mint state, the difference between MS-66, MS-67, MS-68, MS-69, and the nearly mythical MS-70 is massive. Here's the key: while millions of 1998 D halves exist, very few achieve MS-68 or higher. And MS-69 examples? Those are rarer still, true unicorns in the modern coin world. This rarity of perfection is what drives serious collectors into intense bidding wars when one appears on the market. Most 1998 D halves settle in the MS-64 to MS-66 range. Nice, collectible, but not remarkable. But when one surfaces in pristine, flawless condition, free from the tiniest tick or blemish, it becomes the kind of coin collectors will spend years searching for. Why the 1998 D can be worth a fortune. So why does a 1998 D $50 get so much attention? Because modern coins that achieve the highest grades are extraordinarily scarce, and collectors assembling top-rank registry sets absolutely must have the best of the best. Registry sets are competitions, yes, actual competitions, where collectors assemble the highest graded complete sets possible. And when someone needs a top population example to secure their ranking, the bidding can skyrocket. This is exactly what happened with the 1998-D. In a surprising twist, a seemingly ordinary modern $50 stunned the collecting world when an example graded at the highest level crossed the auction block. Demand from registry set competitors, combined with the coin's rarity in superb condition, drove the price into territory no one expected. The result was one of the most dramatic sales for a modern $50 in recent years. Condition _qualities that set extreme value. To understand how a coin manages to reach this elite category, let's examine the features a top-graded 1998 D must have: brilliant, gleaming luster with no dull patches, perfectly sharp strike with crisp hair details, no contact marks on Kennedy's cheek or jaw, clean fields without scuffs or abrasions, no hazing, no discoloration, no spotting, spectacular eye appeal from every angle. If even one of these criteria is off, the grade drops, and with it, the value. That's how unforgiving the grading process is, and why only a tiny handful of coins ever make the cut. Collectors love the Kennedy series. Another reason the 1998 D $50 has captured so much attention is because the Kennedy series has a massive and devoted collector base. Kennedy halves are iconic, nostalgic, and historically meaningful. Many collectors build full sets stretching from 1964 to today, while others chase the highest graded examples for competitive sets. The combination of a passionate audience and a rare high-grade example creates the perfect storm for spectacular auction results. Stories from collectors. Some collectors say the 1998 D market is one of the most exciting among late 20th century coins because it represents the thrill of finding treasure where you least expect it. There are stories of ordinary people discovering brilliant, untouched 1998 D halves in bank rolls, in bags purchased from the mint, or even in family coin jars. Most are mid-grade, but the possibility, the excitement, that one could discover that extraordinarily rare top-grade specimen keeps collectors hunting. Imagine opening a roll of half-dollars, expecting nothing more than circulating coins, and finding a shining, pristine example that could rival the best ever known. That dream is part of what makes the 1998 D so captivating. How to tell if you have valuable 1. If you're curious about your own 1998 D half-dollar, here's what to look for immediately: exceptional luster, zero visible nicks under magnification, perfectly clean cheek, bold hair details without flattening, no edge marks, a flawless field on both sides. If your coin meets these strict standards, it may be worth sending to a grading service. Even one step below the top grade can command a respectable premium. Hunting for hidden treasures. Even today, coin enthusiasts still search rolls, mint-sealed sets, and old collections for high-quality Kennedy halves. The fun of roll searching is that you never really know what you're going to find. The 1998 D remains a favorite year for searchers because the potential payoff is so extraordinary. Keep in mind, many of the highest-grade coins were originally pulled from U.S. mint sets purchased back in the late 1990s. These sets sometimes sat untouched for decades, preserving their coins in near-perfect condition. If you own any older mint sets, it might be time to take a closer look. You never know what treasure may be hiding inside. The sale. And now we arrive at the moment everyone waits for. Just how much did one of these extraordinary 1998 D Kennedy half-dollars sell for? A stunning, top population-graded example hit the auction block and shocked collectors everywhere. This coin achieved one of the highest grades ever assigned to a 1998 D half-dollar, an achievement that instantly made it one of the rarest modern coins in existence. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most talked-about modern American coins among collectors, the 2023 United States of America D Mint Mark half-dollar. This isn't just any coin. This little piece of metal has sparked excitement, mystery, and skyrocketing curiosity across the collecting community. Make sure you stay with me until the end, because the final story we reveal includes a jaw-dropping number, a value written out in full words, that will absolutely surprise you. Let's begin. Opening of the STRY. Picture this: it's early 2023, and the U.S. Mint in Denver is humming with energy. Machines are striking thousands of half-dollars a minute. Most of these coins will take ordinary journeys through vending machines, coin jars, and cash registers. But among the millions minted, an extremely tiny percentage come out different. Different enough that collectors take notice. Different enough that the world begins whispering about special strikes, unexpected variations, and rare characteristics that could turn an average coin into something extraordinary. The 2023 half-dollar carries the proud portrait of John F. Kennedy, and on the back, the iconic presidential seal. For many Americans, this coin is familiar and symbolic. But for numismatists, the tiny D under Kennedy's bust is what makes it especially thrilling this year. It signifies that this coin was minted in Denver, home to some of the most collectible mint errors and specialty strikes in modern U.S. coin history. The mystique of modern coin modern coin collecting isn't what it used to be. Decades ago, collectors hunted for old silver coins, wheat pennies, and historic currency. Today, the thrill has shifted. Rare modern coins, especially those with small quirks or unusual mint characteristics, have become the new obsession. Why? Because while older treasures are already known, cataloged, and priced, modern rarities hide in plain sight. They sit in circulation where anyone, yes, anyone, could accidentally discover one. And that sense of possibility electrifies the hobby. The 2023 D half-dollar, despite being new, fits right into that intrigue. The characteristics that make collectors look twic. What exactly makes certain 2023 D half-dollars stand out? Not every coin from the Denver Mint is special, after all. But collectors began reporting unusual details, exceptionally sharp strikes with mirror-like fields, unexpected die polishing marks, off-center impressions, slight doubling in lettering on a tiny number of pieces, a handful of specimens that appear to have been struck with greater pressure. None of these traits make the coin counterfeit. Quite the opposite, they make it fascinating. Coins with slight variations often reflect transitional die states, experimental adjustments, or rare mint occurrences. And when a coin is both modern and scarce in its unusual form, collectors know they're looking at the beginning of something big. Stories from Coin Hunters. Mid-2023, collectors across the U.S. began sharing their experiences online. One man in Ohio found a 2023 D half-dollar in his change at a grocery store and noticed a peculiar shimmer on the reverse. He posted a photo, and within hours, seasoned numismatists were commenting, "This looks like a high-grade strike," and "check for doubling around the eagle's wings." Another collector in Nevada reported discovering subtle raised metal near Kennedy's hairline. Experts chimed in that this could be the result of an early dye state, something extremely collectible, and then there was the teenager who discovered a 2023 D half-dollar in a coin roll hunt and later learned from a local dealer that his coin displayed unusual dye rotation. Imagine discovering a rare collectible by complete accident. Moments like that are what make the hobby magical. While not every story ends in riches, enough unusual examples of the 2023 D half-dollar have been found to make collectors pay attention. The rise of graded SPCMENS professional grading companies played a huge role in elevating the value of these coins. When collectors submitted their best finds to grading services, something unexpected began happening. Some pieces were coming back at exceptionally high grades, MS-67, MS-68, even a whisper of MS-69 territory. For a modern circulation coin, grades this high are incredibly difficult to achieve. Every tiny mark, scratch, or imperfection lowers the score. So when a fresh from Denver 2023 D half-dollar emerges in nearly flawless condition, it quickly becomes a coin worth showcasing, protecting, and yes, investing in. Collectors love quality. Investors love rarity. When you combine the two, values start climbing. Why the 2023 D half-dollar captured public attention. It wasn't just one thing. It was everything: a surge in new collectors joining the hobby, online communities sharing discoveries, high-grade submissions receiving exceptional scores, rumors of special strike-like characteristics, very low distribution early in the year, excitement around modern mint anomalies. Even individuals who had never collected coins before found themselves rummaging through drawers, car cup holders, and old jars just to see if they had a 2023 D half-dollar hiding somewhere. The beauty of the coin itself beyond rarity. Let's talk aesthetics. The Kennedy half-dollar is one of the most iconic designs in American numismatics. Kennedy's profile, strong, determined, hopeful, has appeared on these coins since 1964. In 2023, the Denver Mint carried on that tradition with remarkable craftsmanship. Collectors often comment on the sharpness of Kennedy's jawline on high-grade pieces, the brilliant reflectivity of the fields, the crisp detailing in the eagle's wings and shield, the smooth curvature of the rim, the deep strikes on clean specimens. This is a coin that already has historical emotional weight. And when that emotional appeal meets rarity, values rise even higher. The market effect as whispers turned into discussions and discussions turned into bidding wars, the market responded. Collectors with high-grade or unusually struck specimens began receiving offers. Online auctions showed strong demand. Dealers started reserving their best examples for their most dedicated customers, and one exceptional specimen, struck from the Denver Mint, unusually pristine, visually stunning, carrying all the traits collectors dream of, reached a price level that shocked even seasoned experts. The story of that specimen has become a kind of modern legend among coin enthusiasts, but I'll come back to that in the final moments of this script. The educational lesson behind the HYP. What makes this topic fascinating isn't just the value. It's what it teaches. Modern coins can be collectible. Rarity isn't always about age, it's about condition, characteristics, and demand. Anyone can make an extraordinary discovery by paying attention. The coin hobby is alive, evolving, and more exciting than ever. For those thinking of getting into coin collecting, the 2023 D half-dollar serves as a perfect example of how thrilling the journey can be. What to look for if you have ONE. If you're holding a 2023 D half-dollar right now, here's what collectors recommend checking: the shine and luster. Does it look unusually reflective? Strike sharpness. Pay attention to Kennedy's hair details and the eagle's feathers. Lettering clarity. Look for doubling or unusual spacing. Rotation. Slight misalignment between obverse and reverse can increase value. Condition. Fewer scratches equal higher grade potential. If your coin looks exceptional, it may be worth having it graded. The build up to the final value. Story. Now, we've explored rarity, collector stories, grading, market hype, and coin beauty. But the moment many viewers wait for in videos like this is the reveal, the value story that defies expectations. Among all the 2023 D half dollars discovered, only one has become the headline maker. This specimen wasn't just high grade, it was breathtakingly flawless. It wasn't just sharply struck, it had characteristics almost resembling a prototype output. Collectors, dealers, and grading experts took notice. After careful evaluation, competitive bidding, and numismatic astonishment, the coin reached a level few modern pieces ever achieve.